Okay, so we're gonna first do a little project updating. We'll do this every time, and so we can just roll through. Is someone for ATP? Let me look. Penny? Can you give us a quick 1 minute update on ATP?
So at the moment, our main focus is on our expansion for next year. And so Ben has a whole lot of different prospects that he's thinking of where we should move the project in order to maximize our potential, because as you probably know at the moment, we're rather underutilized with only, I think, about 5 mentees. So basically all the freshmen have their mentoring experience, but even then, I think about half of them are on the like a pseudo exec team where they're like planning things for next semester. So we're basically just looking at a lot of different schools that we can work with around UH and different criteria that we can judge them by, maybe like how the SAT scores are, the like income of the people attending them. That's mainly what's up with APP.
Awesome, thanks. Wise?
So WISE right now, we actually just had a meeting today right before the rally, but we finished planning out the rest of what the fall semester is going to look like with our students. And just in the spring, we're planning on starting outreach and starting to look into other elementary schools we can look into. But right now, we're doing good with all of our mentors. There's been some engagement issues that's popped up, some issues with HISD and just resources in general, but they've mostly been resolved right now. So we're in a good place right now.
Good.
How many mentees do you have, T?
I'm sorry?
How many mentees do you have?
Right now we have 14 mentees.
Impact? I don't know if anyone from that project is here. Last I heard from Impact, they had a little break and finished with Kip Sunnyside, and their students took their SAT last week or the week before. If someone is here, just cut me off. And then they started this week a new kind of pilot partnership with Kip Houston. And so we're looking forward to trying to work with both high schools next semester for ACT prep instead of just the one. Fit.
Yeah, so Fit is recently just got back working at Reed, one of the New Hope housing locations that we took a bit of a pause on that over the summer because of COVID, but we're back on that now. I'm always happy to see AJ, the families and the kids that are always passing by, and they're excited to see us help them out a bit there. One of the main reasons the big thing I want to talk to everyone about is make sure to sign up if you can. The Backpack Buddies, it's sort of a pop-up shop. It will be at UH at the TDCU Stadium. Not only will food be going out, but also school supplies, hygiene products, essential things such as that to just help families and children as well. We really need help from 3 to 6 p.m. So this Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. if you're available at UH, make sure you sign up. I'm going to put that in the link chat shortly. And then I think Sarah Grace wanted to say something.
A really great opportunity, one, just to meet new Bonners, and two, to do service in person, because I know all of you guys are mostly online. We do have people that are signed up that are not in Fit. Alan, do you want to say their names? I know one of them is Sam, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Sam and Shalom, and they both helped us with lead as well. So I highly encourage you, especially if you're not in Fit, to just come to these things, see Dr. Irving, and see just have fun working with other Bonners as well. It's gonna be fun.
Also Lauren, I'm pretty sure. Sorry.
Yeah, Lauren as well. Lauren Moore. Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, Alan and Sarah Grace. I'm forgetting somebody. I know we haven't gone through enough projects.
ATP. Who did we forget? Breakthrough, Smart.
Breakthrough and Smart. Okay, Breakthrough first. I don't see any of them. They rolled out. They started this week. Actually, maybe on the next page. There's 2 pages. Yeah, they're not here. They rolled out this week or last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. I can't even remember what week it is. It's already November, and started with their students in terms of building the mentee-mentor relationship, getting to know their students, and then looking forward to the essay prep that they're going to do with those students for their college apps. And then SMART.
That's me. So SMART, we are on our third week of mentoring. We just completed our third session today. Similar to WISE, we have been having a bit of issues with HISD and engagement. Specifically, there have been 2 days, one of them including where HISD has been on a holiday. And so not many of our mentees have shown up. But overall, our engagement has been pretty good. And our community partner has been very engaged. We have new issues arising because the entire school has moved on yet again. But we've been working with them as we go. It's been going pretty well. And then soon we should start planning for our spring semester because we were kind of having an abridged semester. Because HISD started late, we're only getting 4 to 5 weeks of mentoring when we would usually expect 8.
Okay. Thanks, y'all, for the updates. Any questions about any of that? Okay. All right. Today we're going to talk about values and ethical decision making. Woo! This is something that those who are upperclassmen have heard a little bit before in terms of values. We're going to do a little bit of exercises thinking about our values again, but then we're going to take it a step further into actually learning about and applying ethical decision-making skills. And so we'll get to that second part later, but first we're going to start with a bit of discussion about values. So I just want to ask you guys, what is a value or what are our values? You can pop in, you don't have to feel like you raise your hand.
I don't have a specific value, but if you're looking for a definition of a value, I would say it's like something that you live by, something that you can always turn to when you're making a decision to inform your decision, something that is really close to your heart.
Yeah, great. Something that informs your decisions. It's kind of who you are. Any other comments, thoughts about what a value is?
Yeah, adding on to that, it's kind of like your moral standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's how you decide maybe what's right. So where do we get our values? Where do they come from? Where do you get your values? Have you thought about this before?
I think. Oh, sorry, you're good.
Sorry. You can get your values from your environment, the people you grow up with, just sort of how you interact and how you learn, like and grow in life.
Mm-hmm. So you learn them from the people around you?
Yes.
Dorothy was going to say something, and then also Shaloma.
That's the same thing I was going to say. Like, she got it.
I just said parents.
Parents, yeah. They can also come from religion or some other kind of community structure, family structure. They can come from other places too, you know, from yourself. Someone said from experiences and learnings in the chat. Do you think that your values are always the same, or do they change over time? How do they change? If they do.
Values
I feel
can
like-
definitely, values can definitely change over time because of experiences or learning that you have, or experiences that you have, or your values can stay the same, but just change which one is more important to you at any given moment.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think a lot of times you as I think Gabby said, you have these values maybe that you inherited or that you're used to from your family or your religion or the people you grew up around. A lot of times as you get older and you learn more, you have more experiences, you meet new people, you have to start making your own decisions. You have to confront what your values are and what you want them to be. What really you choose to be your values. So thank you guys for sharing. Wanted to get people involved a little bit, and I think these are questions that we don't often enough think about. This is something I've actually been working on recently in my own personal life, and with my therapist is this idea of where our values come from and how we support those in our lives. And so it's something that we could all stand to think about a little bit more. So that's what we're going to do for the next however long. What I'm going to do is share my screen really quickly and share what is a list of some values. So it's not comprehensive. There are certainly values that you or others could have that are not on this list. But this is just get our brain thinking. And then after we go through this list and we have a chance to just read them off, see what they look like. I'll scroll my screen every minute or so you guys can see what they are. We want you guys to take out a piece of paper and think about what are your values. So first, outline maybe what are 10 of your values, or between 5 to 10 of your values. And then what I would like you guys all to do is to pick 3 of those that are most important to you. And you might find that that's actually very difficult to do. As Lauren said, sometimes your values, you prioritize differently depending on the situation, the facts of the situation, or where you are in life, or who you're interacting with. But just in general, I want you guys to think about what are the things that you base your decisions on, that you find really important, or maybe that you want to be your values. Maybe you don't think you act like that right now according to that value, but you want to, you think it's important. So I hope you all have your paper out by now. I'm going to share my screen so let me get on the right webpage. There it is. Okay, so like I said, not a comprehensive list. I'm going to read them off really quickly, and then I'll give you guys time to just think about it and leave them here. So authenticity, achievement, adventure, authority, autonomy, balance, beauty, boldness, compassion, challenge, citizenship, community, competency, creativity, contribution, curiosity, determination, fairness, faith, fame, friendships, fun, growth, happiness, honesty, humor, influence, inner harmony, justice, kindness, knowledge, leadership, learning, love, loyalty, meaningful work, openness, optimism, peace, pleasure, poise, popularity, recognition, religion, reputation, respect, responsibility, security, self-respect, service, spirituality, stability, success, status, trustworthiness, wealth, and wisdom. Like I said, not a comprehensive list, but and there are things not on this, and I encourage you guys to try to think of some that aren't. I'll scroll through this a little so you can see the different ones that are on here, but go ahead and pick 5 to 10, and I'm going to do it as well. I think I see Dr. Irwin might be doing it as well. That are you would consider to be your values, or that you want to be your values. And then try to pick the 3 most important to you. We'll give it about 3 or 4 minutes. you guys want me to scroll, just let me know. I'll give you another minute. Should have put some music on. It would have taken me the whole 3 minutes to get there, probably. All right. Go ahead and stop wherever you are. First, I just want to ask, Nicole, did you get a haircut? Oh, it looks cute. Nice. Okay. This is the extent to which we get to see each other anymore. Okay. All right. I hope you had a chance to jot some down and then think about which might be your top 3. Does anybody feel like sharing? Let me mute myself. I was going to share mine, but I will not right now.
Come on, let's have a brave soul. We're all in this together, trying to work together as a big family to make ourselves better in this journey of life. So come on, somebody share. What are your values?
I can start us off now. Oh, go, Alan. I was going to say, now that I got the dog under control.
I have 4. The first is discipline, particularly important in my life right now because I'm trying to drag myself to go work out at 11 p.m. every day. Independence, respect, and the last one is leadership.
Awesome. Were those the ones you picked after writing down a longer list?
Yeah.
Great. Mine are kindness and service and meaningful work, which I take service to mean all kinds of service, like service in the community, but also service to the people you love, with your family or anything like that.
Mine, I think, are kindness, trustworthiness, and optimism.
Mine are passion and purpose and exploration.
These are fantastic. Come on, it's one other person.
Mine are accountability / altruism, and then self-respect or self-assurity.
Go for it, Dylan.
Oh, mine were community, balance, and authenticity.
Awesome. You guys should keep these papers and keep them in mind. If there's something that maybe you struggle with sometimes, keep in mind that that is a value you strive for, and think about how to act on it in your everyday lives. But also keep them in mind for when you find yourself in tough situations. There are a lot of times when, but most days, those things are easy. They come natural to you. You're able to think about them now. You know that they're important to you. But it's the times when you have to make really more difficult decisions, or maybe you're choosing between things that are not as straightforward, or you're confronted with a situation you've never faced before, when those values are all the more important. And you, having consciously thought of and identified that those are your values, is all the more important. Doug, you want to talk about Bonner values?
Yeah, I'll just first say my wife and I have a list of the value propositions for our relationship. And we've written those down, and we refer back to them frequently, and they guide us in the interactions we have with each other and the world around us. So don't be afraid of working on these, thinking about the ones for you, updating them, listing them, and working with other people on them. So I want to share with you some value propositions for It says, can somebody let me share my screen?
Yes, I'm on it.
Fantabulous.
Very good. Can you now?
Let me try. You guys see these?
Yes.
Great. All right. Let's go around the room for a second and tell me what are some of the values that undergird these value propositions. Anybody got? Can you see them here? So I had a list of values, and then I translated them into these 11.
Is number 2 accountability?
Sure. Yeah. Come on, somebody throw one out. You don't have to link it to one of the 11. What's a value you see here?
Reliability.
Sure. Right. Good. Keep them coming.
Compassion.
Leadership.
Yes. Right. Good. What's another one?
Open-minded.
Yeah. Sure.
Honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Discipline.
Couldn't hear you, Dylan.
Discipline.
Yes.
Drive.
Respect.
Yes. Right. Absolutely. Sure. Here's I'll just run through these. Some of the list that I had: empathy, decisiveness, commitment, patience, accountability, entrepreneurial, growth-oriented, integrity, innovative. That's some of these that I then translated into these value propositions at the core of what we want on exec teams. This is did I list empiricism? That's one of these two. In other words, we're going to be data driven. That was another one on there. So I encourage you to translate your values. And of course, the challenge in life, ladies and gentlemen, is because we're not leading a monastic life, will be the tension between these, because many times you'll be in situations in which you're having to balance these. And that's the gray area. That's where life gets interesting. And as Trinity said, your values don't mean much unless they're under stress. In other words, it doesn't mean much, to be honest, when I say, did you get dressed today? Well, yes, of course, obviously, right? You don't get credit for answering that. You get credit when there's a penalty, a price to be paid, or when their values are under stress. So that's we'll charge on. Mr. Neer?
Yeah, great. Doug, if you can end your screen sharing.
No.
Okay, so now we're going to think a little bit about ethical decision making. So this is one way in which we have to translate our values into decisions in the everyday world. We're going to work on ethical decision making in some case studies, like situational scenarios. That's redundant, but this is also something that happens in life. You don't have a case study to review. You just have to make a decision based on what you assess is going on, what you assess your values and others' values to be. So we're going to practice a little bit of that now. First, I just want to talk about ethical decision making as a concept. So this is, like I said, applying your values to making decision, but it's also, I mean, those who are in business will know this is a huge component of what you all do. It has a lot of implications for the medical professions and really every profession, because in your future jobs, you guys will encounter situations where there's a code of ethics, maybe for your career. So a medical code of ethics. Those are the rules, the ethical rules for your profession. We're talking more about ethical principles or these values where there's no hard and fast rule about what to do in a situation. You're looking at a situation that's right versus right, not right versus wrong. It's not do no harm, which is an ethical rule in medicine. It's two things that are not necessarily the right or the wrong decision, but you have to decide between the two based on your values. Either could be one of the decisions that you make. And you have to be able to justify that based on your values and an ethical decision-making process. A lot of times this is running in the background for us, but I would argue that if we're thinking about it more intentionally, we'll make better ethical decisions. And if we practice it with intentionally keeping the decision-making process in mind, it'll translate more naturally into our everyday lives. So one form of an ethical decision-making model involves a few steps. First is to kind of understand the facts of the situation. So what's going on, who's involved, what's the data, if that's relevant, who are the parties, all that kind of just general context fact gathering. Because of course it's very difficult to make a decision about something that you don't know that much about. And this will be different in different situations. And then next you have to consider, what is the ethical dilemma? What are you deciding? What is the right versus right? Well, what's the problem that you have to consider and apply your values to? And then you consider your own values on the values of others. You have to consider how other parties involved in this decision or affected by this decision would relate to it or be impacted by it. And then you have to decide how your values are influencing your decision. And at the end of that, you would theoretically have made a decision based on the facts and the values, and you should be able to articulate it in a way that applies those facts, the information that you know about the situation, and which explains the values that influence your position, and which identifies with the values of other people. So that's a little kind of maybe high-level thinking, and if you can just keep in mind that you should know the facts, you should know your values and other people's values, and you should be able to identify the dilemma and apply those facts and values to it. So I'm going to share our rubric document. If you guys want to pull it up on your own computer, it's in the files section of our general channel. It's now in its own folder called rubrics. So I'm going to share my screen so that we can look at it together very quickly. I always have to make sure I have the right screen. Okay. How do I zoom out? Oh no. I'll just scroll. What is happening? Okay. So this is our ethical decision-making rubric, and kind of as I was just going through, it involves 4 components. So there's, as you can kind of see, there's different theoretical approaches to ethical decision-making. We're not really worried about all that. We just want you guys to understand the basic components that would go into making a decision like this. And this is kind of related, although maybe in a different order. So this wants you to do a value self-assessment. Can you articulate and evaluate your own values? Understand where they came from, understand how they influence you, etc. And then can you recognize the ethical issue? This is identifying the dilemma, knowing what's the right versus right, what's the problem that I'm having to figure out. And then apply ethical perspectives, including those of other people. Think about not only how your values bear on the situation, but how the values of someone from another culture or another country or another age group would apply their values to the situation. And then not included on here, or kind of included in the last one, is stating a position based on that information and that values assessment. So you guys can keep this in mind if you want to refer to it when we do the activity. But again, just remember, we're looking for the facts, the information, and the values of yourself and others and how they apply to making this decision. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing all this jargony information. Does anybody have questions about the kind of components of this decision-making process? Comments? Do you feel like you've done this before, or like it's kind of new, or maybe you're doing it unconsciously sometimes?
Talk to us, folks.
I don't mind waiting in silence for a little while. A professor once told me that the awkward pauses in class are some of the most productive and useful moments when the students are thinking about what to say. Is this something you guys have done before? Oh, go ahead.
I think this is something that I've been doing unconsciously because although I haven't explicitly thought, oh, what are my values and how am I going to assign them to this situation? I know I have very, very strong values and I couldn't do something that would go against those.
Yeah. And Lauren, do you think that because you say you do this unconsciously, can you recognize now where there's situations or decisions that other people make, or maybe political things that you're like, oh yeah, I'm totally applying my values to that. That's part of, even though you didn't know you were doing it, that's part of your decision-making process in those moments?
For sure. There's been times when I've had multiple options presented to me, multiple things I could do. But I think, well, this is it's more honest if I do it this way, or it's more, I guess I would use the word ethical if I do it this way than these other things. Although no answer would be wrong and no one would be mad if I did these other things. Like I wouldn't feel right unless I went this one way.
Yeah, great. And I can imagine that all of us have probably encountered a situation where someone who has different values than us decides something differently or acts differently. And that really bothers us because that clashes with our values. That's a whole other conversation about how to interact in those situations. But let's move on to our case studies. Lauren, thanks for sharing. Any other questions or comments before I blow forward? Okay. I'm going to put in the chat, like last time, these numbered texts 1 through 5. And then we're going to break into breakout rooms, and you guys are going to work in small groups to address a case study. They're all a little different, and what you should do, how many of us are there? 31. I'll break us into 5 groups, so we'll have about 6 in each. So there will be 1 question to each group. So if you're in breakout room 1, you're going to do what I'm putting in here now as case 1. So go ahead and take a look and pay attention to what breakout room you end up in so that you can work on this. What I want you guys to do when you're in your groups is to identify, like last time, a leader for your group. And this person should help direct the conversation if it feels like you guys aren't sure what to talk about, but also be responsible for representing the group when we all come back. But in addition, what I want this person to do is practice your kind of inclusive teamwork skills. I want you to be responsible for encouraging other people to participate who you haven't heard from. This should be something that everybody in the group is doing, but particularly whoever you guys select to be the leader, you guys should see to it that everybody in the group participates, gets to say something, is heard, feels comfortable participating and getting their voice heard. And everybody who's typically a quiet one, which was always me, believe it or not, push yourself to be involved in the conversation. But that leader, please be conscious of trying to pull those people into the conversation. What we want you guys to do now, I'm going to break us into rooms, is to read through this case for your group. It should stay in the chat, if not, just blast my email, and we'll be hopping around groups. But I want you to think about, what are the facts of the case? What are your values? And this can be maybe a little interesting because you're doing this as a group. You might not all have the same values, and that can be part of the conversation. But also think about when you're getting ready to share with us towards the end of your group discussion, what changes in the situation might change your decision? What little thing that was different or development down the road might change how you apply your values or what decision you make about this case? And then finally, think about whether you had to go on one end of the spectrum or the other. In other words, choose one right versus the other right, or whether you were able to make some kind of mediating decision. Sometimes this process is finding something that is balancing the two. So when we come back, I want that one person to be able to tell us those few things in about a minute or 90 seconds. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, I'm going to break us into rooms now, and I'll pull us back in about 10 minutes. Bye. We're back. Did you guys think that was easy or hard or
It was a little different.
irritating?
At first, I was like, "Oh, this is easy," but then like everyone changed
Yeah.
everything.
I think it's partly more difficult because you're working in a group too, which sometimes you have to do and make decisions in a group, but it's a lot harder to make decisions based on values that maybe different people in your group don't all share or aren't all thinking about the thing in the same way.
And adapting.
Yeah. And sometimes when you're working in teams, you really do have to decide what are your most important values and which ones you have to kind of hold a little bit in order to facilitate a group, not consensus, but acceptable decision. Okay, let me see if everyone's back. I don't see Doug. Oh,
I'm
there
here.
your camera's off. Ah, there we go. Okay, I asked some of you, and those of you who came in a little later, was this easy, hard? What'd you think?
I think actually deciding on a solution was easy, but explaining why or just was a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, it's I think in a case of where you kind of are doing this unconscious value application, but you have to think about what are the values, what are the components of your decision-making process is a lot harder. Someone else is going to say something. No? Okay. I would like for you guys all to share. So that point person, if you guys could give us like a 1 minute, 90-second overview before we wrap up our meeting for the night. Remember, keep in mind that we want to hear about what was the dilemma, what were you guys deciding on, and very quickly, what was the case? And then what were the values that you guys decided you were basing your decision upon? Maybe what were the values of other people involved in the decision or affected by the decision that you guys considered? And then what decision did you make and why? You're blind.
Okay, so we were managers of a business and we were facing budget cuts and we were trying to decide if we should lay off 5% or decrease wages across the board. And so we took it for our values. We focused on the perspective of the business. So we focused on success as a value. And opposing that were community and equality values for like the people working. And our decision ended up being that we would lay off 5% of the employees for the overall success of the company. And in doing that, we would first notify the 5% that it would be happening like ahead of time to give them like time to look for a new job or stuff like that. And when we do lay them off, like most companies have like relief for unemployment, so that would be something. And we went with that because it would overall be better for the business. And like long term, like short term, it would be bad for the workers being laid off. But in the long term, if we're giving them time to prepare, we think that would be better than lowering wages overall.
Yeah, and I think one thing you guys were talking about, maybe I misunderstood this, was that long-term for the business, this was something to think about too, which to me, I thought you guys were saying the bottom line for the business is having a problem. And if you address it in different ways, that's going to affect how things progress in the future. And you had to keep in mind the long-term interest of the business still existing in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, protecting the interests of the 95%.
Thanks, Dylan. That's hard. That's a tough decision.
Yeah.
All right, group 2.
So our scenario was that your two good friends, John and Lucy, go on a date, but John finds out he has no interest in Lucy, and 6 months later he asks you out. And then it was kind of like a what do you do? So we decided that the values at play here are autonomy versus loyalty. So since John was the one who didn't have interest in Lucy, we would talk to Lucy first. But at the end of the day, we decided that Lucy is not the gatekeeper to the relationship, and that you kind of owe it to yourself to kind of find out if you are interested in John or not. Because in the last line, it said, should you talk to Lucy first, or should you go on a date with him first to see how it goes? So we decided to talk to Lucy first to clear out the air and to make sure that there was going to be no hurt feelings. And at the end of the day, she did not get to dictate the relationship, but I kind of have more of like an input.
That's a tough decision too. That's a really interpersonal, especially if you guys are really close friends. All right. Thanks, Justin. Group 3.
I guess I will talk. So our case was about the coronavirus and whether, as the governor of Texas, whether you should implement a 1-month lockdown again, or just continue as is. And we kind of had made our decision first and then thought back about, what are these values at play? So the two things that kind of stuck out was, for the decision would be community versus this kind of individualist approach, every man for themselves versus, are we going to work through this as a community and all commit to a lockdown? After some consideration, our idea was, yes, go ahead with the lockdown, but to have some sort of safety net in place to prevent some of the issues that go along with the lockdown. So things like helping people with their mortgages, or providing resources for mental health support. And so there are ways to counteract some of the negative effects of your decision that would kind of benefit the community as a whole, which is the value we kind of went off of.
Okay, so you guys prioritized community, maybe lives, health, I don't know, some things along those lines, and identified the counteracting considerations in terms of economy and jobs and health and all of that, mental health. But it sounds like you guys made kind of a mediating decision. So we're gonna do lockdown, but we're going to think about all those other things because those are important to us as well, and figure out how we can address them. Great. I wonder, and I don't need you guys to answer, but I wonder what you would do if you were faced with a situation where you didn't have any more resources to devote to things like that. What decision would you make then? How would that change the decision that you made if you as the governor were running a tight budget, as he tends to do? Thanks, Lauren, or Nicole, sorry. Group 4, we're on 4?
Yes, we're on 4. So the situation in number 4 is basically a community partner for a writing tutoring program has the most need, but their parent involvement is really low. So it's kind of causing the effectiveness of the program to not be where it should be. And there's another school that's reaching out to this program saying, hey, we'd like to have a similar service at our school, and their involvement is a lot higher. And the interesting thing is this is very similar to what WISE went through last year, and it's kind of interesting to come back to it and then try to figure out the ethical decision behind it. So what we decided, the values that were kind of conflicting here was commitment and service. So commitment to this community partner school, or maybe finding better service at another place. And what we ultimately decided was first communicating with the partner and saying, we've been having issues with parent involvement. This has been impacting tutoring. Is there a way that we can adjust our program to maybe decrease the need for parent involvement and still be able to be effective at the same school? But that also brings in the question of authenticity. If we're having to change our program basically completely in order to accommodate this partnership, is that really good on our part? And we also have to be committed to our mentors and taking into consideration their time and their commitment to our program. If we have to remodel everything, how is that going to affect them? And versus going to a different school and not maybe being at the place where that needs the most help, but being at a place where we can help more. And that's kind of what we decided, first communicating with them. But if our values and just we're not a good fit for them anymore, it's better to have a pilot and move on to a school where we can have better effective service.
Great. Yeah, it sounds like you're also balancing a value of maybe efficacy in the middle of all that as well. I like what you said, T, about trying to decide if you wanted to stay where there was more need or move somewhere else where you could be more effective and help with the people you are serving better. You deliver a better program somewhere that maybe needs a little less, but it's doing more. Thanks. Group 5.
So in the scenario for group 5, we're on the director board of a neighborhood civics club. And it says our value is explicitly stated here, it's free speech. And however, there have been some individuals who have said some hurtful things at the meetings, and it's caused a lot of internal stuff going on within the club, and some people are leaving. And so the situation is, what would we do to address the situation? So I guess our conflicting values here would be the collective / community versus the individual speech. So we decided from the get-go that it is important to not only address this hurtful language, but also give others the chance to respond to this hurtful language. Since our value is free speech, we don't want to suppress others' right to speak, but we want to allow others to respond to that type of hurtful behavior as well. And one way we wanted to address the problem was to remind the collective club as a whole the value of free speech, but also being mindful as well to others. And so from that, we would address the individuals who are involved in the hurtful speech, hurtful behavior, have a meeting with them, and also the opposing party who finds the type of speech hurtful, and just let them have a discussion together, and also set some guidelines and set some rules for the members to abide by. And if they continue to go against those rules, there will have to be consequences that might occur. That was what we went by, and it was mostly like collective versus individual. And I know like free speech is a pretty touchy topic, especially now.
Yeah, great, thanks. Doug, any comments on any of those? I see you shaking your head a lot.
Well, I'm really impressed that we're here. It's dark outside. We're all a little tired, got lots going on, and we're digging into the stuff to make ourselves better. Because let me tell you something. The way you want to be is a value-driven leader. Managers do things right. Leaders do the right thing. You've got to know what your values are. And if you don't, I assure you, you will be governed by values. They just won't be yours. You'll be in an ever-shifting matrix in which other people are dictating them to you. So I encourage you, continue this sort of thinking. Know what your values are. Embrace them. Be able to talk about them. See where they butt up against each other and how you negotiate that. And that's going to be at the core of where your good leadership is.
Great. Thank you guys for working hard on this and contributing your thoughts to it. It's a difficult process, and hopefully it's one that you can keep, as Dr. Rain just said, practicing in your own life. And maybe now in the next few days, you'll recognize some ethical dilemmas in your everyday life and think about what values you have running in the background when you face those. That's all I have. Doug, I know you wanted to say some things before we leave.
Yeah, I want to be real clear with everyone about this. We're all very much aware that we are underutilized. We have largely been sidelined relative to the amount of almost frenetic energy and the pace of our ability and the scope of delivery of service that we're able to provide. And that's not our fault. It's what COVID has done. And I encourage you that nonetheless, even though we are underutilized, that doesn't mean we don't learn, we don't grow. So a lot of the best growth emerges at times either when you're sleeping or at a time of rest, or maybe it's a time now where we're underutilized. So just because we're unable to do the amount of mentoring that we would normally do and help the number of people that we would in the community that we normally would, that's not a broad comment upon the nature of our ambitions or what we're capable of doing. We will emerge from this stronger, better, and I encourage you to buy into and take advantage of the huddles and the rallies and these sorts of things, because when we come out of this, we're going to roar out of it. And there'll be a tremendous amount, and we will go back to not only the volume and scale and scope of work that we will, but it'll be more. And so I encourage you too to keep your morale up, not only of you, but of the Bonners around you. So it is trying, it is frustrating when you're there and your mentee isn't. But let's remain optimistic. Let's keep hope there. Let's reach out in ways that we can and do the best that we can under these difficult circumstances, realizing that the challenges we face are very often small relative to what those people in the community that we have an opportunity to interact with are dealing with. Finally, I just want to encourage you to make sure in these trying times that you are taking care of yourself. You are the most valuable asset you have. You're a treasure, and you have to be first and foremost a caretaker for you. So do the things that you need to do. If it's give yourself an afternoon off, or take a weekend off, or go chat with a friend, or call somebody, do those things so that you keep your spirits up. You've got to keep up with yourself here and take care of yourself. That's job number one. So we care deeply about y'all. We're here for you. We just extend the biggest heartfelt Bonner love and hugs that we can. Trinity?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Doug. I would echo all of that, and also add that if you guys need someone to talk to, reach out, or plan with, or make a game plan for something you're struggling with. Our calendars are open to you. So with that,
don't let those things pile up. Don't let them grow out of proportion. Do not allow your fear to dictate you not reaching out. Whatever the challenges you're facing, others are too. You belong in the Honors College. You're a rare breed. You're exceptionally talented. You have fortitude, hard work, rugged determination. And so if you're facing a challenge, you're not alone. Reach out to us, and let's have a conversation about it. You are worth it.
All right. It's good to see you all. We'll see you soon, and have a good evening. Bye.
Great work, Trinity.
You too, Dr. Doug. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.